We're good, we're good. Cut.
Play action fake. Right side throw, touchdown! Kansas City!
Let's go, man. Let's go. We're not done, dog. I want 3.
We got to get 3.
3. No one's ever got 3. 3. No one's ever got 3. I want back-to-back to back.
Good day for you. Good day to be Ed Berry.
Oh, what's my man gonna get?
North of what you said? 12.5 APY, 25 guaranteed. North of that? Again, we're not gonna go there. We're out. Is it in the division? I'm trying to prepare myself mentally for what's gonna happen. I mean, that's all.
Awkward. So here, Super Bowl 59 preview. What I want to break down is the X's and O's, the scheme, the tendencies of both teams, focusing on Eagles offense versus Chiefs defense, because I feel that matchup or that side of the ball is really going to determine who's the winner of this game. Chiefs offense versus Eagles defense. I just found that less interesting because everyone's talking about if Chiefs are going to win or if Eagles are going to win. It all boils down to Saquon Barkley. I know there's a Hurts video play right now, but it's all about Barkley. Because waiting on these 2 weeks, you just hear a bunch of hot takes, conspiracy theories, to the point even people are trying to make football a 1v1 game, Mahomes versus Hurts. I mean, I could puke when I hear that. But hopefully when you walk away from this video, you know what to expect for Sunday's game, and you learn a bunch of X's and O's and football terminology. So start off with Eagles offense, then we're going to focus on Chiefs defense, and then we're going to finish this off going over a little game plan that I put together. So let's go over some quick notes about the Eagles offense. Everybody knows they love to run the ball. They're number 1 in rush attempts. Surprisingly, they're dead last in passing attempts. That was kind of crazy. The majority of the offense is from shotgun. They rarely go in motion, so that makes it hard on Jalen Hurts pre-snap. They go from 11 personnel. That's 1 tight end, 1 running back, leaves you 3 wide receivers on the field. Their bread and butter is inside zone. And then their passing game, majority of the pass attempts are going from outside the numbers. But if the Chiefs want to win this, if they want a three-peat, continue the dynasty's dominance, you have to stop Saquon Barkley. The run scheme that they run the most by a mile is inside zone. What inside zone is that blocking-wise, if the ball's going to the right, everybody's stepping to their right and taking care of their gap. That's the simplest way to describe it. So overall, inside zone is designed to be in between the tackles. So right here, since you don't see anybody pulling, that tells you it's a zone play. And since they kept it inside, that's inside zone. So everybody's zone blocking to their right. But as an offensive line, you want to generate the most double teams that you can. So a center guard double team is called an ace block. And you can call it whatever you want, but I know it as an ace block. And they're going to ace block to the play side linebacker. So, and then on the flip side of this, a guard tackle double team, that's called a deuce. So what they're going to do is that they're going to deuce block to the backside linebacker. That's the easiest way of describing it rather than, oh, Mike, Sam, Will. So here, watching this play, I'm going to pause it in a second. Boom, double teams. And as they're doubling, they got those eyes on the linebackers ready to bounce. So that's where everyone's picked up, and then easy gain of 5 right there. To help stop inside zone is that you want to bring more guys on the line of scrimmage. So what Washington's doing here is called a overload front. What they're doing is they put 3 defensive linemen to the right of the center. And the reason why they went to the right of the center is because the running back's on the left. So the running back's on the left, the handoff's going right. If the running back's on the right, the handoff's going left. That's all they have shown on film this whole entire time. So breaking this down further, what teams like to do is the numbering system. So here the center is 0. The biggest threat to his A-gap is that defensive tackle right there. Teams do this so you can see who's blocking who pre-snap. So here the guards take care of his B gap, who's the biggest threat, that right there. And then the tackle, he's taking care of C gap. So who's the biggest threat to his C gap? No shocker. And then you kind of catch a flow to this. So where the backside guard, biggest threat to his A gap, he's taking that linebacker, and then so on and so forth. So the reason why they do that, so if, like, for example, that center, you got 3 blockers going to the right. You got 3 guys over there. Okay, great. We got numbers. Run the ball. And here you see everyone stepping to their gap. And then as a running back, he's got to, feel his way through. Just keep those legs turning, whatever you want to say. But a key part of inside zone, because you're going to get different defensive fronts. So I've shown you one where the defense was head on and 2 techniques. And I showed you one where Washington was in an overload front. But here, what if you have a player lined up in the backside A gap? Some people will call that like a 1 technique. There's so many different numbering systems. So I'm just going to say he's lined up in the A gap. So what's very important is that guard, from our angle, the guard to the right, he has to reach block. He has to cross his face because that dude's going to shoot the A gap instantly. So if he's going to shoot the A gap and he's going to be picked up, then you have a problem. So here, he's that guard, he's going to get his head across, turn his hips, and seal him off. That's textbook. If you're watching a clinic, this is the play that you're going to see. So that's perfect. As the rest of the line, they're just stepping to their gap, picking up their blocks. Pre-snap, they know where they're going. Here, Barkley's untouched the first level. Since he put everybody on the first level, there's no one to touch on the second level. Third level, the safety one-on-one. Good luck. That is where the Eagles will whoop your ass. So that is very important. So breaking this down again, that's where, since you want to put everyone up front to stop the inside zone, untouched first level. Second level players are non-existent because you had them on the first level. And then Barkley one-on-one with the safety. That is nightmare field. That is a situation you want to avoid. Your D-line cannot be dominated, and your linebackers cannot be pushed around like ragdolls with your corners being non-existent when it comes to tackling. So here, Eagles in the Super Bowl running inside zone all the time, denting the defense. Even though Kellen Moore was not the offensive coordinator for this game, when he showed up, Eagles are so good and dominant at this that he just kept the party going. Even when the Chiefs stop it, because everyone's condensing to the middle. Inside zone's not supposed to be an explosive play because everyone's getting condensed in the middle. But even when Chiefs stop them, Eagles have an FU attitude that they're going to keep punching in the mouth, denting the defense, and get the almost the first touchdown. He fell a little bit short, but as I mentioned last year, they were number 1 in running inside zone, but they weren't that explosive just because, let me think, they didn't have Saquon Barkley. So that's where he's taking a simple play that's not explosive and just blowing it up. So if you don't obey the rules defensively, run your scheme right, he's going to expose you. Here, what a split zone is, it's inside zone, so you see everyone blocking to the right, but now you have a tight end off the ball coming back and getting the edge
You want
player.
to stop them from crashing. You want to stop them from wreaking havoc. You send your tight end back there and you tell them you cut the shit out of them. You cut the shit out of them right now and you don't think twice about it.
First
son.
play of the game. Do
I'm
it.
not kidding you. Watch this.
You want to make this team?
You want to set a fucking statement? I'll guarantee you
tackle
that.
him.
Hey, I guarantee you he's slowed the fuck down, right?
Teams like doing that because it allows backside offensive tackles to climb and get the linebacker or B gap players, and then it has that tight end coming across taking care of the C gap player pre-snap. That's not a pretty rep. I try to find what I could, but the reason why I added this into the video, so when you see a tight end off ball, you know that split zone is a possibility happening. So the line's blocking right, tight end's coming back left. Another thing that I noticed on film is that Barkley loves to bounce it outside. So if you don't have good defensive ends pushing down the C gap while also having edge containment, you're going to have problems. So here they're running inside zone. So the center guard, they want to generate double teams, so they're going ace block to the play side linebacker. But here, as they're climbing, 69, he doesn't have his eyes on number 4. He doesn't bounce off good enough. So here, Barkley has 2 choices. He could put his helmet in the middle of number 4, or he could bounce it outside. He bounces outside, and since the defensive end was not containing the edge properly, it's another touchdown. Here, you're going to see a split zone like we just went over. So you see the tight end, number 81. You're going to see the line block left, and 81's going to bounce right. But when it comes to the X's and O's, number 54, the middle linebacker, he's left untouched. So another scenario where Barkley, he could shoot the gap, go inside, put his helmet in between that dude's chest, or he can bounce it outside as we saw before. So since the defensive end wants to crash down and corners are just getting blocked up, he's going to bounce it every single time if you're going to play like that. So when it comes to the running game, you have zone plays and you have gap plays. Counter is a gap play. So inside zones are jab, counters their haymaker. So with counter, the ball's going to the left. So everyone's blocking down to the right. But here you're going to have a player kick out the edge player and another player kick out the play side linebacker. So showing this just at full speed, everyone's blocking down. You're going to see 2 players pull. One kicks out the edge, one gets the play side linebacker. And now you have a giant seam you can go right up the middle with. So a lot of teams run this. So breaking this down, that's where you're going to see everyone blocking down. So the play's going left. So guys are going to be blocking to their right, taking care of their inside gap. And then you're going to see two guys pulling. The first guy pulling, he's kicking out the edge player. He's the kick out. And then 81, the tight end, he's the wraparound player. He's going to take out the play side linebacker. So here, Washington's defensive end does an honor and makes a business decision to get out the way. And then here, the tight end, he gets his helmet to the outside, sealing off that linebacker. And then there you go, just yards, yards, yards. So, and the Chiefs segment, we're going to go over how to stop this. Going over this play, the linebacker, or from our perspective, the running back's to the right, so you know the ball's going left. Because that's what I said, that's a tendency the Eagles have. If they change that, I would not be surprised. But here, the ball's going to the right. So what does that tell you? Everyone's blocking down, so that's going to be to their left. And I know someone's cringing. I've not said the word hinge block yet. But here, you're going to have the guard kick out the edge, and the tackle's going to be a wraparound player. Eagles, when they do counter, majority of the time is a guard tackle counter. GT counter. So here, Barkley's going to our left. The line's going to be blocking right. The guard, he's going to get his helmet on the inside and seal out that edge player. He's going to kick him out. That's the goal here. And then on top of that, you're going to see the tackle pull around and get his helmet to the outside and seal off that linebacker. So right here, boom, helmet on the inside. Perfect. That tackle, he's got squeezed through the gap. He's looking for work. He did end up getting the correct player. Boom, helmet on the outside. That's textbook. And one thing to love about the Eagles is that those wide receivers block. If you don't block, you don't get the rock. But when you're last in passing, I don't know how that's going to work. Dual threat, Jalen Hurts. This is a very important part of the segment. So the bounce off that counter, they do a counter read. So they're still having a GT counter, but now they're giving Jalen Hurts the option to hand the ball off or not. So what they're doing is that they're reading the backside edge player, the backside defensive end, whatever you want to call it, the C gap player. So here, if the C gap player crashes down, he can hand off to the running back. If not, he can keep the ball and follow the counter. So going over this in slow motion, that's where he's going to hand off to our right. He's reading that edge player. It looks like he's going to tackle Barkley. So he keeps the ball, and now you have a GT counter. And Rams, I'm telling you, Chiefs are not going to be this bad at tackling, and they're going to run the scheme so much better than the Rams in Washington. So here, now we got the counter going left, so we're reading the backside C-gap player, or the edge player. So watch Barkley right here. Or not Barkley, Jalen Hurts. He's keeping his eyes on. Looks like the dude's crashing down. You can tell by his eyes and his hips. It's not a clear picture, but right here, where the ball's right here, this is where you got to make that split decision. Because if you're not on the same page, this is where you could fumble in key moments, such as the AFC Championship for the Chiefs. So that's where Mahomes and Pacheco now on the same page. Ball's on the ground. Bills yank it right out from him. So back to this moment. He's reading him. Do I keep it or do I let him have it? So he believes that he's going to crash down, made the right decision. And right there, wide receivers blocking. That is such a key detail as wide receivers are blocking. And then as we're watching this, like, I handpicked all these videos, so you're probably thinking, oh man, Eagles, they're a beast. You know, every run's going 40-plus yards. But I do want to go over how if the defense does their job right, these plays can be stopped. And there's a lot of examples on these big runs where guys aren't doing their part right. So watch the edge player on the right. Rather than crashing down, watch this. Where the hell is he going? And that's where Jalen Hurts just a cakewalk into the end zone. So you're going to see, as we're going through these plays, there are times where guys aren't doing plays right. And then here, what I like to point out is that the Eagles with the center, they like to pull him and move him around. And they did the same thing with Kelsey. So it's kind of like Kelsey kind of passed the baton to this guy. I wish I remember his name because him and the other guard, they're dealing with injuries right now. So that's a key detail to remember. But here's the same example. Right here, there's 5 in the box. Jalen Hurts makes a 6 for Eagles. So it's 5-on-6. Hurts finds the right gap that's not covered. So that's an easy dub right there. Here's another one where Kelsey is going to kick out the edge player. Gets his head. Well, I didn't even see it, to be honest, because this was going so fast. But this is the play I want to focus on. If a play works one time, you're going to see it again. This time, Kelsey gets his head on the inside. Boom! And right there, the guard, he makes the wall. Right there, cakewalk. So it's like, that's why I keep pointing out where the last Super Bowl, you're seeing the same scheme. The only thing they do now more is probably counters. than they did before prior to Barkley showing up. But right here, this is going to be an ISO play. So I'm going to let the play run through, and then we're just going to go back and rewind this, see all the little details, all the key points to it. So here, when it comes to ISO, what you're doing is that you're splitting the field, half of it's zone, half of it's man blocking. So here, you got the 0 going to the biggest threat to that A gap, the 1 biggest threat to the B gap, and the 2 biggest gap or threat to the C gap. When you do that, there is going to be a player that's unblocked. That's why you do the numbering system. So you got 3 blockers for 4 guys. That doesn't work. So what Jalen Hurts ends up doing is checking to an ISO. So what ISO does is that it leaves the lead blocker for the middle linebacker. And the middle linebacker is the Mike. So who's the Mike? That guy right there. He's the middle of the linebackers. He is the Mike. So since half the line's zone blocking, they're going to ace to the linebacker outside of the Mike, and then on the backside, the guard and the tackle, they're manned up on the D tackle and the D end. So that's going to leave number 54, I believe, because I got my microphone blocking it. He's going to be the unblocked player, but that's okay because he's the furthest away. That's truly what you want. So here, watch from our perspective, the left guard. He's going to make contact with them, and just like last on the other place, he's going to turn his hips and seal him off. So he's going to turn, seal him off. Perfect. Here, the right guard and right tackle, the 1 and the 2, they're taking care of the B and C gaps. Now you got them climbing to the linebacker, number 11, and then Barkley got his head on the right side, blocking the Mike backer. From here, it should be a cakewalk for Jalen Hurts, just like that. So you've learned inside zone, you've learned counter, you've learned ISO. And then going through here, as I mentioned, they always go from shotgun, and that's where I found a chart based upon last year where Kellen Moore was still there. It's the same, pretty much same stats for this year. They never go under center, but when they do, that is the only time they go from the outside on purpose. Because those gap schemes, they make a gap for the C gap and it's turning it up. But when they're purposely trying to get to the outside, that is when they're going under center. And here are the Ravens doing the same play versus Chiefs. These are concepts that every team does. It's nothing special. It's just they have the Jimmys and Joes to do whatever they want. And here, this is where Chiefs have seen it in the Super Bowl. So, as I mentioned, this is nothing new. You know, don't be a Chip Kelly fanboy back in the day. Oh my gosh, this is stuff we've never seen before. Yes, it is. It might be stuff you have never seen before. So, and the only time I've truly seen them go outside in shotgun is if they're doing a touch pass. And they'll do that every now and then to Devontae Adams and Goddard when those guys aren't getting their touches. Kind of a little easy getting them involved in the game. So here, back to where watching Eagles film where the defense is not doing their job correctly. And that's why these runs are blowing up. That's why I would be shocked to see Barkley get huge runs against us. He's going to get his 8 to 12 yards, but I'd be shocked for 40. So watch that defensive end. This is a pin and pull. So he's getting pinned by A.J. Brown. He tries to spin out of it, and he takes 3 guys out of the play because of it. And then as we're watching it here, 2 guys on 1, that should be a tackle. It's not. And then here's another guy. You know, you could argue it's 2 on 1. Maybe 91 makes a play. That doesn't happen there. So it's just piss poor tackling and guys not doing their job right. And Chiefs are the number 1 tackling team. Now, there's one thing I don't have an answer for, to be honest, and that is the damn tush push. And the reason why I don't have an answer for it because I haven't seen anybody else come up with an answer. So that's where you see the traditional tush push. You know, it's like, what do you do? But there are different counters they got off of it. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And with it being the Super Bowl and Chiefs stopping Josh Allen because he always goes left, that's where these guys could turn this thing into a pass also. So a lot of things keep in mind. I didn't realize that until I was starting doing research on this. I thought the tush push was just a tush push. But now they're doing, you know, the fake fumble like the Lions do, and now they're airing it out. But when they do these passes, that's only going to be on 3rd down. There's no reason to do that on a 4th down. And here's just another fun one I found just on YouTube versus K-State. So there's a lot of variations you can do out of this. Here with the passing segment of the video, this was going to be shorter than running the ball since this team's all about Barkley. But the biggest tendency with Jalen Hurts is that he always throws outside the numbers. He's never throwing inside the numbers. Like, so the Chiefs went from playing the 49ers who favor the inside between the hashes or the middle between the numbers, and then you got Jalen Hurts who favors the outside of the numbers a lot. And anytime he's got A.J. Brown versus single high safety, that is his favorite target or his favorite go-to. So anytime you got a single high safety versus press corners, that is just yelling for a 9 route. That just means a go ball. And here, that's where, and Commanders did this on purpose so they could force the Eagles to pass, and the Eagles are just playing buddy ball on them. So here, this is where you see the Chiefs doing it in the Super Bowl, where they put more in the box because they have that single high safety. But A.J. Brown is here at the bottom. Chiefs did not press. They scoot the DB a little bit back, hoping that Hurts takes the bait. And right here, they try to play buddy ball, and this time it doesn't work. So it's about 50-50 ball. You can say that kind of depends on who the receiver is, the coverage, who's the DB. But you want to bait the Eagles in a passing, but ultimately you got to stop Barkley. But I'm just showing a highlight reel of numbers going outside the or passing going outside the numbers. It's not like every single time. Let's not be ridiculous about it. But there is a high tendency of him passing outside the numbers, and that's why I put on the throwing chart on here. And then here, they're going to run similar concepts from time to time. So 2 plays where it's a go route versus a single high safety. Now these are out routes, one from the right, now to the left to Devontae Smith. And as I mentioned earlier, that's where Eagles favor the outside. I'm jamming that in your head on purpose to where the 49ers, they're just the king of dig routes, just favoring the middle of the field. So, and even on concepts, like right here, they're a mesh concept. If you watch my other videos, it's 2 shallow crossing routes. That's where, I don't know if this is on purpose, but he's like waiting for the shallow route to get to the outside. So I don't know if that's part of the tendency or that's just how that play went. And then one thing is that their play actions are awful. There's like I mentioned earlier in the video, there are pros and cons to always going from shotgun. That's where you can't do power plays. That's where outside zone is a problem. That's where everyone can see the ball when you're play action. Because when you're going from under center, that allows you to do outside zone. And as linebackers, they have to flow with the line to protect their gaps. So when everyone's flowing, that's where you can roll out on a naked and hit your underneath routes. And so here I found a little video where Colts, where they're trying to run power. Power just means you're pulling 1 guard. Counter means you're pulling 2. But when you're from under center and your back is turned to linebackers, that's more believable that a run's happening. So it sucks up the linebackers. And if you got a tight end on the go going up the seam, that's where if you don't have safety help, that's going to be open. And then on top of that, if the linebackers don't respect it, then you actually run real power or real run schemes, between the tackles on them. So here, when the linebackers have to respect the run, that sucks them in, and then the safety has to help out with the tight end going up on the seam. Well, what that's going to do is open up other players. There's pros and cons to everything you do on defense. So that's where Colts right here, I believe that's T.Y. Hilton. That's where you got him on a 9 route or a go route. So everything's connected. And then with Jalen Hurts, he's not good under pressure. He rushes. He doesn't really have that many hot routes in a lot of these concepts. So that's where I see a weakness that Chiefs can expose is what Chiefs are known for is bringing the heat. So that's where, if the first and second option are there, that's where his eyes goes down. And then in the NFL, I don't care how good your line is. Typically, you're not going to be able to hold the ball for 3 seconds. So that's where you could generate pressure on him and just hope he doesn't throw the ball out and, get a sack out of it. So that's where repeatedly over and over, the Eagles offense doesn't really have hot answers for the most part. And that's where he's holding the ball a tad bit too long. And he has a history of throwing the ball quick, but that's where when there's pressure in his face, it's a game changer. Just like Brady in 2007, greatest team ever, you could argue. But when the D-line's up in your face, that causes problems. And with Chiefs, it's not just the D-line. They bring pressure from anywhere. They are a blitz team. Blitz means you bring in 5 guys or more towards you. So that's right here where Chiefs have a history of blitzing corners when there's a tighter formation. Joe Burrow knows that. So he's just hitting us hot. He's hitting a check down. And that's where Eagles, there wasn't really much of that on film. In total, I only found 1 play where Jalen Hurts sees a blitz, says hut, and throws it. And here, with the Eagles having issues with their center and guard kind of rotating because of injuries, that creates communication problems. So if they have to play with backups, I've seen communication problems over and over versus Washington. And then those guys do play injured. Well, guess what? You're going to have Chris Jones after you. And on top of that, you're going to have blitzes coming from different angles. So, and this is not just a one-time game. This is where I was bringing up plays from the last Super Bowl. There's plays of this versus the Rams, plays versus Washington. And this is where Spags could expose the Eagles. So now let's segue into the Chiefs defensive section. So here at MFO, that stands for middle field open. Chiefs love to go 2 high safeties, 2 high safety shells. With the fronts, they can go under, over, overload, also known as boss, bear, 5-0, and double mugs, and even odd man fronts. Here, smart DBs. I know that's generic to say, but you got to be aggressive and you got to be smart if you're playing for Spags. And on top of that, mixed personnel. You're not going to have your basic base, nickel, dime, quarter dollar. No, there's times where you see 2 defensive linemen on the field, and they're self-aware. Every defense has its own pros and cons. So Chiefs, that's where Spags have the history of bringing 6 when it matters most. So Bills, they think, oh, let's have 5 blockers, and those 5 blockers not even block correctly. That I can make a whole video on that play. But here, 3rd and 4 at the Super Bowl, this is where the one that Chiefs, a lot of the Chiefs get the ball back. That's where, if Chiefs are bringing 5 to 6, well, where's the blitz coming from? So that's already right here off screen. That play right there is 2 linemen on there. I don't know if I mentioned that, but this is what 2 high safeties. You could see it. But here, when you bring a safety down to help with the run, that leaves you a single high safety who's typically in the middle of the field, but that leaves your receivers on the outside one-on-one. That's what Chiefs don't want. They don't want A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith one-on-one because they are good. But here, this is where you see the safeties, not given a clear look. One guy comes down, next thing you know, him in the corner change responsibilities. Here, this is an overlook. This is where you have Chris Jones lined up in the B gap and the other defensive tackle lined up in the A gap. They do this, when you favor, like, for example, Kittle right here. There's more guys to the right, so that's why you have Chris Jones scooted over. And since 49ers are an outside zone team, that's more than likely going to leave Chris Jones one-on-one. And that, as Chiefs and Spagnuolo, that is what you want. You want Chris Jones with great matchups, one-on-ones. You don't want them taking out Chris Jones. So with every defense having pros and cons, I'm going to keep repeating that. That's where you have less guys in the box. So here you got your A gaps, B gaps, C gaps. When there's a tight end, there's a D gap. So how many players you see? We see 6 offensive players. That means there's 7 gaps. Well, the problem Chiefs, they have 6 players in the box, so they're out gapped. So that's where, as I mentioned, anytime you see, say, 6 players in the box, there's 7 gaps. 5 players in the box, or 5 linemen, 6 gaps. So here, this is where the Chiefs are going to attack the middle of the offensive linemen and try to control both their left and right gaps. And they're going to play team defense. Everybody to the ball. Everybody to the ball. I'm going to emphasize that. For guys who get double teamed, this is where guys can't be selfish. That's where you have to take on the double team and try to pull the guy with you so your linebacker here, Nick Bolton, can run free. It's a good, dirty trick that everybody does. So if you're like, oh, defensive holding, how is it on the D lineman? It's this right here. So going through this is where you got to have aggressive DBs. We can't have DBs getting blocked and watching Barkley go down the field. This is where we want guys attacking the edge, squeezing down, and getting tackles. We ain't doing this Marcus Peters or Bland or even Deion Sanders has mentioned. Well, he's got a reputation of that. Who knows if it's true. Of DBs not wanting to tackle. And then here, look at Snead on left screen. Snead versus Trent Williams. You'd think Trent Williams is going to blow his ass backwards. No, Snead pushes him back, causing the ball carrier to go inside, and that's where you got Chris Jones waiting on him. We're going to see that play again. So here, as I mentioned, this is where you got a light box. But when Chiefs, who like to play man a lot, more than most teams, if the running back is guarded by Nick Bolton, Tranquill is guarding the tight end. When you see your guys playing man, that's a green dog. That means go blitz. Right there, rush to the pass. Now, you see the running back scoot out. So if C.J. Stroud would have saw that check down is open. So it's risky. Here, when there's a wide receiver by himself 5 yards away from the tackle, that's called a nasty split. So Chiefs like to blitz when there's a tight formation. So here you got a guy in a nasty split. And that's where that corner is going to blitz. And then the safety is going to take over that zone. And then I brought that up on other plays, like when Joe Burrow hit that quick check down. This is what I'm talking about. That's where Jalen Hurts has a struggle of hitting his hots. So here, going back to the 3rd and 4th down play, the reason why you like having 2 high safeties is just like the last play, you can blitz a corner and then rotate that safety down. So here on the right, 49ers are in a tight formation, so you think the nickel blitz or the corner blitz is coming from our right. No, it's coming from the left because Chiefs teams study their own tendencies. Shocker. They also study refs, what they like to call. They like to study, look at injury formations. They study everything. They know their tendencies. So that's where you can counter their counter. So going through here, one thing I want to mention, when it comes to the run game, you got to have dogs in there because you're out-gapped or outnumbered majority of the time. So that's where guys like Chris Jones, that's why we tried Tyreek Hill away and kept Chris Jones. You got to have a dog in the box. So game plan-wise, this is the section that I was most excited to put together. Of course, everyone knows game plan-wise, it starts with the run. No shocker. It's already been said plenty of times in this video. We got to stop Barkley. So first thing I want to go over is stopping inside zone. This is kind of a dog versus dog, but guys like Belichick said, you got to do your job. So here, you can't get the line of scrimmage. You can't let the offensive line push you backwards. And on top of that, guys have to win their 1v1 blocks. So here, this is where you see him shed the block, get the tackle. Of course, you know Chris Jones is going to be involved every time. Right here, Dana, number 51, the left tackle. He does not seal him off. He just lets Dana cross his face and crash down for the tackle. Watching this right here. Does it cross him? Lets the defensive player cross his face. Here, if inside zone is going to keep being predictable because the running back's on the right, from our perspective, lineman's blocking left, this is where dudes want to knock out their move real fast and get a TFL, tackle for loss. And very next play, we're going to see Chris Jones do that right here because the play is going to our left. We already seen this play. It's when Snead crashed in on Trent Williams and causes the play to go inside. But this is where number 68, he just kind of over pursues Chris Jones. You don't want to do. Chris Jones is going to eat that up every single time. But it's the backside players that are very important when it comes to the inside zone runs. Because if everyone's going to get blocked and linebackers are going to get shoved like ragdolls, and then your A-gap player is going to get sealed off, this is just a clinic video right here. And then your running back's 1v1 with someone that's like 20 yards apart from him before the ball's even snapped. As Eagles, they want that every single time. And with Barkley, going over this again, if it's this type of scenario, he wants to bounce it outside. This is where you need DBs willing to tackle, and you need your defensive ends willing to control the edge. Right here, nowhere to go, slips, we're right there anyways. A better example, first play, Super Bowl 57. This is where inside zone. This is where there's nowhere to cut back, nowhere to play side, so he wants to bounce it outside. That's where number 55, Frank Clark, is doing a decent job. But right here, very important, that DB is fighting back. He's not getting pushed around. So that play went from inside zone to getting horizontal real fast. Chiefs, they want to walk up, or they like to take the chances of walking up linebackers, putting guys on the first level, line of scrimmage. It leaves you weak on the second level. But if guys can do their job on the first level, it could set up, at least moshes or tackles. I know that's generic to say, but hey, they made CMC fumble. But stopping counter, watching the edge play right here, that is not what you want to do. You do not want to open the door. You don't want to, Ole, let him through or make a business decision. What you want to do is spill, jam, whatever you want to call it. Get in there and cut off or ruin the kick out to where the play gets sucked inside, and that's where everyone's just right there waiting on you. Screw up the player trying to wrap around. Cause chaos. Here's another example. Dana, he's going to crash down, causing the play to go outside, get the wrap player, get the running back, get them off script, get them off course. And that's Chiefs, all 11 hats to the ball. Everybody get involved. Team defense. But here's the thing about the Eagles. If you stop the kick out, that's where the wrap player is smart enough to where he's going to bounce outside, and Jalen Hurts is following him with him being the lead blocker. So just like that. So even though you jam, you got to have everybody flowing with you. But if you stop the jam, that's where these plays don't have potential to go 40 yards. And as I mentioned, team defense. Even when the Eagles have success, it's got to be all 11 hats to the ball. First guy tackling, everybody else should try to rip that ball out, just like what we saw with the CMC play. But the newest trick that Spags likes to do, he didn't do this versus Eagles, that first Super Bowl, but he did it. He started last year, kept it going this year, but this is walking up all five guys, creating a 5-0 call. That's 5 big on big, 0 double teams. And from there, that's where teams like to do all their different stunts and blitzes. So here, this is where you're going to see Nick Bolton walk up. That's going to generate a 5-0 call. And that's where you're going to see them all do their twists and stunts. Everyone's switching assignments on which gap who's going to wear. And that's where you kind of force, like right here, Purdy into a low percentage throw, especially on McDuffie versus Debo. We'll take that every time. But here, that's where, even though you see 5 guys lined up front, that doesn't mean those 5 guys are automatically going to blitz or rush the passer. So here, as an offensive line, you got to respect, if you got 5 blockers, you got to figure out who's the 5 most dangerous, and you got to respect the 5 on the line. But what Spags likes to do is drop one of these guys and then bring the 5th blitzer from another spot. So right here, that's where you see the corner coming off on the edge, and that safety replaces him in that spot. Right here, you got another 5-0 look. Tranquil, the left player, he's dropping back. But Chiefs didn't bring an extra, 5th guy. This is just 4 guys rushing, so you got 7 guys in coverage. And that's where that sets up Chris Jones one-on-one because the O-line had to make a 5-0 call. Big on big. 5 blockers for the 5 guys on the line of scrimmage. Here are the Bills. Another example of you see them pointing out Nick Bolton, that's a 5-0 call. But here you see George Karlaftis, number 56, to your right side. You see him dropping back. So you see 5 on the line of scrimmage. Then I'll bring in 4. And then that's going to set somebody up one-on-one. Good matchup. Normally you want Chris Jones being that one-on-one. But it's causing pressure, causing quarterbacks to stress out. And Jalen Hurts panics when he feels the pressure. Here's a fun one where I mentioned Chiefs will go odd front. So you got 56, 98, 95. So that's anytime it's a 3-man front, that creates a 4-man slide. So they're trying to figure out who's the 4 guys they're going to slide to. Because 73, he's going to be left on an island by himself. So there's 27, that's who they're sliding to. Now Nick Bolton's back in the picture. But then you see 54 and Nick Bolton 32 walk up. That's going to generate a 5-0 call. So you've seen them bring 5. You've seen them bring 4. Well, this time around, they're going to bring 3 and leave Nick Bolton as the spy. So that's where it gets confusing on who's coming, from what different angles, how many guys. That's where Chiefs keep making this, they're consistently unpredictable, and that's why offensive linemen are losing on the X's and O's pre-snap. So right here, there's only 2 D linemen on the field. You want to call that an odd front or not, but that's where they're bringing the 6th guy off screen, and normally Chiefs bring a blitz from the tight formation, but from there they brought it from the wide. But right here, Bills. If Spags brings 6 guys when it matters most, he has a history of doing that, and you have 5 blockers, that is on the Bills for screwing that up. And then right here, anytime you're dropping guys or bringing blitzes, you got to have C-gap containment, because if not, good quarterbacks such as Mahomes are going to sniff that out. And then right here, every time there's pros and cons to every defense. So if you want to bring 5 and go cover 1, have 6 guys in coverage, that's where you're going to have corners one-on-one, which leads us to our next segment. So when it comes to coverage, I'm mainly going to focus on Chiefs playing man coverage since they like to blitz. And then on top of that, if I broke down zone defenses, regardless of the team, Tampa 2 is Tampa 2. And then on top of that, going over McDuffie, they like putting him on the wide receiver 1. For example, we're going to go over Jamar Chase, and he travels too. This ain't going to be no BS where, oh man, he only stays on one side of the field. Here you got him guarding Nico Collins up top. That's shut down. But the matchup itself will be A.J. Brown, who's 6'1", and he's a bigger body. And McDuffie is 5'11". He's got a smaller frame. So I'm going to go back to the very first Super Bowl where here Eagles are in pistol. So, of course, the handoff's outside. But on top of that, that's where it's 2-eye safety look. This should not have been thrown. And that's just piss poor coverage. So that's where Eagles, same spot of the field, same exact play, fake handoff to the outside. And this is where Jalen Hurts is testing his leg versus 2-eye safeties and McDuffie. And this almost gets picked off. So that first touchdown should not have even happened. I'm surprised it even got thrown. But here, Chiefs are Spags is stealing a scheme straight out of Belichick's playbook. That's where you're going to have McDuffie on the wide receiver 2. It's not T. Higgins because T. Higgins didn't play this game. And this is where you're going to have bracket coverage on the wide receiver 1. So that's where you're going to have the cornerback 2 focusing underneath with the safety focusing over the top. And plus McDuffie on Devontae Smith. That's a better matchup body-wise. So here, watching down below, that's where you're going to have watch the bracket coverage. That's where you're keeping Jamar Chase in the middle. Every time he goes deep, he's going to get bracket. So watching this again, McDuffie up top. This is where we're going to see the bracket coverage on bottom. Get this play going. And with this, it can create coverage sacks when there's nowhere to go for the quarterback. He's got no answers. When your best wide receiver is doubled and then your number 2 has a 2-time All-Pro corner on him. It's like, good luck. Even down in the red zone, they're still going to focus on double teaming. They don't want you. The Chiefs do not want to get beat deep, and they do not want your wide receiver 1 doing it. So once again, this is from the Texans game. This is going to be Nico Collins up top. Just bracket coverage. And they're not going to do this every time because, like I mentioned, they're going to test it out with McDuffie on A.J. Brown. But here, even when it's zone coverage, looking down here at the bottom, that's where communication is key. Chiefs are good at communicating. They have smart DBs. If you're going to play for Spags, you got to be aggressive. You got to be smart. I know that's generic, but that Tyreek Hill trade gives us enough options and enough draft picks where we can find enough guys to get this done. But that's where defensively, that's where they're going to have Jamar Chase start playing underneath. Because if he's going to keep trying to go deep, you're just banging your head against the wall. You're not going to do it. Chiefs are denying it. So here, this is where you see Chiefs bring a corner blitz. Burrow sniffs it out and just hits Jamar Chase underneath. Because that's all he's going to get. You're not going to beat us deep. Once again, they're going to use a stack motion, try to mix up our communications. It doesn't work. It's just another quick game. Just happens to be zone, just sitting down right there. Kelsey has made a living doing that. Here you want to see him on a shallow route. just staying in his hip the whole entire time. If he's underneath, you got to stay in the hip. Here you're going to see Bengals try to get a little jet sweep, or you can call it a fly motion. That's where they're just trying to get creative since nothing is quite working. You might see Eagles do that with Devontae Smith when they do go in motion. And then here, Chiefs kind of corner Jamar Chase just to play in the backfield, and it's just like nothing's working. You're not going to be as deep. Enjoy your 5 catches for 20 yards underneath. So to wrap up this video, I hope you learned a lot about football, the X's and O's, schemes, terminology. This video was the hardest video to put together, so I'm probably going to take a break after this because I got school and working full-time, and I want to go over, start studying more about techniques because I've been watching film probably about the last 2 years, most definitely. I started in 2022, so this is kind of the tip of the iceberg for me, just showing you guys what I know. Hopefully, I want this to set me up later down the road, but when it comes to predictions, if Chiefs can stop Barkley, we have a chance. If we don't, then it's going to be a lot tougher for Chiefs to pull this off. So it's all about stopping Barkley. Just preaching that. It's stopping Barkley. But do I think they can do it? Yes, I can. So Chiefs 3-peat, possibly loading. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Chiefs!